Hi, this is Sally Morgan and Tristan Corgi, and we are here for an episode of Conversations with a Corgi. I'm a physical therapist, craniosacral therapist, and Tellington T-Touch practitioner for animals and people. And this is Tristan. He's a Corgi, although he's a little one. Today we're going to continue our discussion about using wraps for your dog, but before we get to that, I had a few things that have come to my attention over this past few days that I felt were really important things to address. And I know I'm, so to speak, singing to the choir here, preaching to the choir. But I was out at this big parade we had in town on Saturday, and I've been out walking around in the community, and I've noticed some things that people do to dogs without even thinking that are really, I don't even know the word for it. They're not kind to the dog, and people are treating dogs unthoughtfully, I guess is the word. And one of the things I saw, which I know I probably have been guilty of, certainly my family was, which is leaving like 14 tags on your dog's collar so that no matter where your dog goes, those things are jingling and jangling and catching on each other. They're often made out of aluminum, and there is evidence that heavy metals can be absorbed through the skin. So why would we want to leave these on our animals that we love and that we want to share our lives with forever? It just makes no sense. And I was sitting next to this senior dog, clearly elderly, clearly painful, stiff joints, and great family dog, little kids pulling on him and things. And he had, like, every year of his life, his rabies thing, it was hanging on his collar, like, I don't know, 10 of them, 12. And I just felt sorry for him because he can never move his head and neck without hearing that noise. And he's a dog. He can hear it even louder than we can. And I just felt like this was inconsiderate, and it was clear that his collar had never come off. It's one thing if you just put the collar on to take your dog out for his walk or to run around the yard, but to leave 10 tags hanging on his collar for his lifetime, it just makes no sense to me. And I just thought, it's people just don't know. They just don't think about it. And in addition to which, it was cold and damp and rainy. Not the best time to be outside if you're a senior dog with arthritis, and the person kept encouraging the dog to lay down on this bumpy, uneven concrete asphalt slab. And I guess that was probably the most comfortable place for the dog to be, but it was so painful and hard for him to lay down and get up from that spot, and he was squeezed in between rows of chairs. And I thought, why did you really need to bring your dog to this event? I mean, I left my dog home, and lots of other dogs stayed home that day. Usually there's many dogs at this event, but not so many because it was raining and cold, and it just wasn't pleasant to bring anyone out unless they really wanted to go, and your dog certainly might not be that person. And the other thing that this poor dog had going on, the person had put some fabric over his body to make a bit of a costume. And then they had put a very tight piece of elastic around the back waist of the dog. Now, I don't know if this dog was male or female, but either way, it was clear they hadn't really been considerate about where that tight piece of elastic was going. And the dog had it on him for 2 or 3 or 4 hours. And I just felt like, this is so disrespectful to this dog to put this costume on him and then make him walk around in it all day. And the kids seemed happy and healthy and well taken care of, and I just felt like this dog was sliding through the cracks. And I didn't have much to say to the people. I have to say, I decided a few years ago that I would be a lot braver about speaking up for animals like this, but it is just so hard. And I know a lot of us, a lot of you listening, have felt the same way. It is so hard to talk to somebody about how they're treating their animals when that's the last thing on their mind. And, it's different when they come to you for help. Of course, you can easily discuss it then. But I just, all I said was, how old is your dog? He seems like a really nice dog. And they said, yeah, he's a very nice dog. And they didn't engage in conversation. And I was going to ease my way in with the, does he really need to wear all of these tags? It makes a lot of noise. It's hard for them to rest. And when they're old, if the dog were smaller, certainly a dog the size of Tristan with 10 tags around his neck, that would be way too heavy for him to carry all the time. And I have seen Chihuahuas like this. It's not just these big dogs. This was like some kind of setter lab mix dog. But I couldn't engage the people, and so I couldn't say anything about this. But these are things that many people do to their dogs without thinking. So my plea is to please only keep one tag on the dog's collar that he absolutely needs, and to perhaps not leave the collar on the dog all the time, especially overnight in the house, so that he can sleep comfortably, just like you. A lot of people sleep in loose, comfy jammies. They're not wearing their tight athletic clothes when they go to bed at night, and your dog shouldn't have to either. So that's one thing. And the other thing that's come to my attention lately is service dogs. My dog is a service dog, but he has a pretty good life, and he doesn't have to work very hard. But I saw another service dog lab with a barely large person in an electric wheelchair or powered wheelchair, and the dog was obviously one of those dogs that like picks up your socks for you and opens doors and helps people talk to you. The dog had probably many jobs, but the dog was wearing a prong collar, and the dog had on a harness and his identifying jacket as a service dog. But this is like the 5th time I have seen a service dog wearing a prong collar. Now, if you're not familiar with these, I don't even have one to show you. They are like a chain link collar, and when you pull on it, the little links poke into the dog's neck. And it's just a step up from years ago when they were sharply pointing into the dog's neck, but now they're curved and rounded. So, does that make you feel better when you do that? Because you're still really hurting your dog. And a service dog, of all things, this dog lives his life to help this person. Why? Why do we have to hurt him? And the person had not such great control over their arm muscles, and they were going over very rough terrain, like grass and stuff in this power wheelchair, and not really asking the dog to pull them, but they had the dog held much too closely. And so the prong collar was sticking into this beautiful yellow lab, and she was trying really hard to do her job and help this person and be supportive. But why do we have to do this to dogs? This is abuse. It's really, and this is not uncommon. I don't know if there's some place that is allowing service dogs or supporting service dogs to be wearing prong collars, but I don't think any dog should be in a prong collar, and certainly not a service dog. So in this case, I did go up to the woman and say, look, your dog is being really good. He's doing this, he's doing that. What does he do for you? And she was able to talk to me, and I said, you really don't need this collar for your dog. He is not going anywhere. He is clearly attached to you and doing his job well. And, the dog's demeanor was so subdued, and I just felt great compassion for this dog. And so in that case, the person said she'd think about it. But still, it is so painful for me to see a dog who has given his life to help a person, and a lot of our dogs do that without us even asking. They just follow us around, and they have, a happy demeanor, and they sit on our laps and snuggle us. They're just so happy to be with us and share time in our lives. And, why do people do things that are mean to them? And this woman wasn't aware that this was hurting the dog. Somebody had told her that it didn't hurt the dog. And I showed her with her own hand under the collar that, in fact, it does hurt. And so she really had a lot to think about, and I think she may change. But this other senior dog I saw, I just had no way to help him. So I don't know if we can, come together, the people that listen to this and who go to my website and my sisters, and, have more courage about speaking up for animals. But it is just so painful for me to see these kinds of situations, so I couldn't let a day go without talking about it. So that's my soapbox for the day. And today I want to finish up the wrap segments that we've been doing with one last wrap that is so easy to do and so useful. And tomorrow I don't know what I'm talking about. I will be doing this very early or at the same time. I'm leaving tomorrow to go to my T-Touch class in Rockville, Maryland. You can still sign up for it if you're desperate to go and you haven't gotten around to it. But I will be in mid-process, and also on Friday morning I will be arriving there just when the class starts. I don't know how much earlier I'll arrive and whether I'll be able to do this. I may have to do it at lunch break. I may just interview Linda or Pam at some point during the day. So it'll be recorded, but whether you'll be able to tune in live, because I don't know what time things are happening, that's another whole story. So Tomorrow I will try to do it at close to the same time, and it might be quite brief. So we're going to continue our discussion about wraps, and I've had a lot of questions on my various wrap talks. Oh, I forgot to put my mic back on. I hope you can hear me all that time. Since I was upset about those dogs, perhaps I was loud enough. Anyway, the people have been asking about wraps and why do we use them? Why would I want to do this? And if you haven't been watching all of the segments from start to finish, you very well may ask that question, because I usually just gave 2 or 3 reasons why you might use this particular type of wrap with your dog. So I'm going to talk today a little bit more about why you would put a wrap on your dog. One reason is if your dog is shy or nervous, it gives them a sense of their body and their body boundaries in space. So in that way, the wrap is useful for a dog that's shy or nervous. They're also really useful for dogs that are reactive, or as I say, assertive, because again, it gives them a sense of their body in space and where their boundaries are. So it helps make them feel safer. So then they have less reason to lash out at the environment around them. It's great for, of course, thunder, fireworks, loud noises. And in fact, the Thunder shirt was developed by someone who was inspired by our T-Touch wraps at a training. Car sickness, really good for car sickness, especially some of the head wraps I showed you, which affect the temporal bones and the acupuncture points around the ears. Those head wraps can be really good for an animal with car sickness, and you can use them on kitties and dogs and bunnies and yourself. And I'm hoping to show you some human wraps as time goes by here. If your dog is very excitable, like my dog kind of, as my mother says, goes nuts when I stop the car, that's a little hyper excitement. So having a wrap on him when I stop the car does help him calm down, and it seems to have lasting effects for several days after I use the wrap in the car. So I don't like leaving a wrap on my dog when I'm in the car for a very long journey, but when I just go over to my other job, which is about an 8-mile drive, I often will put a wrap on him in the car then, because I know it's coming off in 8 minutes. It's great for arthritis. If your dog has any kind of a gait problem or any kind of stiffness in their gait, including that caused by arthritis, wraps are a great thing to help a dog regain symmetry and equal weight bearing on all 4 paws. Stress-related illnesses such as epilepsy or the teeth chattering thing that dogs do when they get really excited sometimes, the head wraps are really useful for these kinds of issues that are coming about due to stress. And as I said in the head wrap talks, a couple of them, you can use the head wraps for dogs with seizures, but you want to be careful how you're applying them, and also do lots of T-Touch body work around the ears and the jaw and the face before you use those wraps. Trembling, any kind of trembling anywhere in the dog's body, particularly in the legs, can be definitely benefited by a wrap. And that's because the wrap is giving not only proprioceptive feedback, but also feedback along the nerve fibers in the dog's skin and joints. If you have the wrap at the, adjusted to a fairly firm tension, it will really help a dog trembling, because it will give him a sense of where his legs are and help him relax and come into his core. If you have an excited dog, no, I don't have an excited dog, but at a dog show, or, you know, at an agility class or at a training class, or if you have a puppy, you know, a 6-month-old Labrador puppy can just be a bundle of energy, and a wrap can be a really good thing to help him calm and settle just before you start a training class at the puppy school. So wraps can be really useful for that. It can help your dog if he's fearful of being in the car, again, because it gives him a sense of his surroundings and where his body is at all times. And it seems really helpful for dogs that are fearful, even in a car. Tristan, for instance, goes in a picnic basket on my bike that was made for dogs. It has a lid so he can't jump out, because he's very ambitious about getting over to see people he likes, so he needed a lid. But I did use the wrap in that the first couple of times, and wrap him before I put him in the basket, just to give him a sense of his body so that he wouldn't be nervous when I put him in a new space. It helps balance the entire body of the dog, and it can be really useful working on the confidence course to have your dog in a wrap. And for me, as a holistic physical therapist, it's very nice to have the dog in a wrap when I'm doing some of the balance activities that I do. And as I've mentioned, you can just put the front end or the back end of your dog on a pillow or something squishy, a piece of foam rubber, and have the wrap on him, and he will be doing a balance exercise, and it will really help strengthen core muscles and help keep old dogs moving longer, healthier, and with more flexibility. Wraps are useful for confidence building. As I said, it gives your dog a sense of where he is in space. So it's like someone hugging you all the time, and that helps you concentrate. It also helps with focus and helps with your confidence, because when you feel comfort in your body, you're able to pay attention more to other things. Like that 6-month-old Labrador puppy in the puppy school class, putting a wrap on him will help him feel more confident about being in a room full of all kinds of dogs, and he wants to play and he doesn't know what you want from him. It's such a new experience for a puppy. So it's a great time to use a wrap in the beginning of a puppy class and to help them improve their confidence. It will bring more awareness to their body. They'll know where they are in relationship to other dogs. That's why it's so effective for a reactive dog or a frightened dog. It gives the dog a new experience. If you have a calm, happy dog, like my mom's dog, you can put a wrap on them just to give them a new experience, and you may learn things about the dog you didn't know before. For instance, if you have a rescued dog who's had an injury and you don't know about it, and you go to put a wrap on them and they seem a little concerned about one hind leg, you may know that they have an injury that you wouldn't have noticed otherwise. So it can bring more awareness into the dog's body, give him a new experience, and also teach you something about the dog. It's a great thing to do, preparing your dog to wear a harness if you've got a little wiggly puppy. And by that token, a cat or a bunny can benefit a lot from wearing a wrap if you're going to think about using a harness and taking them for little walks. And it's a really good idea to use wraps if your dog is fearful of different surfaces. Again, a wrap is a great thing to put on your dog when you're doing the confidence course, where we will use different surfaces. And I have a dog coming today. Well, it's not actually raining, but it's really unpleasant out there. It's 42 degrees in May. This has never happened. In fact, it was snowing like 10 minutes north of me yesterday morning. I feel like I've moved to Saskatchewan. Anyway, so I'm hoping this nice dog that's coming today, we can do some confidence course work with him. But it is cold and rainy out there, so we'll see if that happens. But in the meantime, I can do different surfaces in my house, like bubble wrap and screens from windows. And some people use like those doormats that are all kind of bumpy coconut mats, and just different things like that for them to walk on. A pile of hula hoops on the floor, whatever you have, and just be creative. Some people even use shag carpeting, long pieces of old shag carpeting with the long fibers on them, because that's hard for a dog to walk on. They have to be really aware of their toenails, and if you are going to walk on something like that, make sure you trim the toenails up pretty well first. So a wrap is a great thing to put on your dog if he has a fear of different surfaces. This might be a dog in New York City who's afraid to walk over subway grates, or a dog that is afraid to walk on stairs in your house, or different kinds of stairs, open stairs. So wraps are super useful for all these things. And, as I said before, all wraps can help everything, but it really helps you to have a better outcome and more beneficial to your dog if you pick the right wrap for the job. And for that, you'll have to go back and look at all of the different videos I've done about wraps in order to find the one that might be ideal for your dog. So today, I wanted to just talk about a pretty simple wrap that we do if your dog has a harness on. And a lot of people's dogs do walk in harnesses. And so it seems to make sense that it's pretty easy to hook a wrap to the harness and around the back end of your dog. So what you'll need to do this is a harness on your dog. Jack is modeling Tristan's step-in harness. It's a little bit big for him, but I didn't want to mess with it because Tristan and I are packing that up for our trip. So it's a good thing to use because it's less bulky and it's easier than trying to put a wrap over the harness and under the harness. So it's really great to do if you'd like to use a full body wrap but your dog is wearing a harness. And it's not a bad thing to have your dog wearing a harness by any means. If it's a properly fitting, good harness, you don't need to take it off to have the benefits of wraps that come to your dog. So you're going to take a wrap. We're going to use a raspberry one again for Jack. And you just need one wrap for this. And we're just going to put this wrap around the dog's hind end. And then you're going to bring the wraps up through either side of the harness. And the great thing about this wrap is that it does stay on really well. Now you have a choice here. You could either put it up through the top of this harness or down by his belly. Because the harness is kind of baggy on him, I'm going on the upper one. Oh, well, maybe I'll go on the bottom one because that is more... I pray that it stays. So you come up through the belly part of the harness and then bring them back, cross them under the dog, and you may just fasten them on the top of the dog if you're depending on the length of your wrap. Oh, that Velcro's not so good on that side. All right, so you can see I started around Jack's hindquarters. Brought the wrap up through the harness. It's easier to see on this side. Brought the wrap up through the harness, going under it, and then back up. I'll undo this so you can see it more easily. Back up and then made a cross on his back here. And then just circled it underneath his belly. Jack, you're a little bit frisky this morning. We need Velcro on both ends. So, and make sure this is pretty far forward on your dog. But to get the effect of the wrap around the hindquarters, if you've got a dog with any kind of a lameness, recovering from a surgery in his patella, which is located here in the dog, the ACL, the MCL, all of those things, this wrap is a really good one to use. If your dog's been walking laterally, if your dog has a back problem, these are all good reasons to use this particular wrap, and it's so simple to just hook it around the harness. And as I said earlier, one of the most important things when you're working with wraps is to know where to start. So for hooking a wrap to the harness, start with one around the buns. So that is what we call the rump wrap. And this Corgi will demonstrate a rump wrap now. Come on, Biff. Oh my gosh, you're falling off your pillows again. He likes to lay with his back end down and his front end up, so he's like this, like a squirrel in a tree. He lays like that on every one of his beds and his sofa. And he's doing that to our kitchen cushions. All right, you got to stand up because I've got to go around your buns, Biss. He says, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Oh, up again. So I'm bringing the wrap with the center around his buns. I may have gotten a foot there. There's not much difference in this dog. And then we're going to come up, face that way, hon, underneath the harness on each side. Can you stand up? I don't want to have this twisted on you, honey. And it might be. Yep. And then, as I said, you bring the pieces through the harness, cross them on the top of the dog, and then hook them underneath. Let's see where the Velcro is ending up on this one. Oh, it came out right, Biscuit. We are so lucky. All right, let's see how this came out. So we went around the back end of the dog, brought the harness up through, the wrap up through the harness here, brought it back on the top and crossed it. I think you can almost see that. And then just went once around his middle with it. And this again is to improve their gait and to help with their balance and to help dogs with back pain. It engages their abdominal muscles when you have this little wrap around their hindquarters. It asks them to lift themselves up when they walk. So it can be a really helpful wrap for a lot of orthopedic problems with dogs. And if you've had a dog that's had any kind of surgery or injury to one of the paws or legs, this simple little wrap is a great way to get them walking more symmetrically again, and to remind them that they can carry weight equally on all four paws, although most of the time most dogs carry most of their weight on just their front legs. But too much of that, like with a bulldog, can be really hard on their joints as they age because there's so much weight over the front end. So encouraging your dog to do a more equal distribution of weight over each foot is actually beneficial to them, and that's one of the benefits of using wraps. So again, this is called the Rump wrap, and it just is using a harness, and it goes around the dog's hind end with a cross on the top. Hard to see that on him, but we crossed on the top here and then came back around his hindquarters or under his tummy. So this is a way of using a hind end wrap configuration without having to overwhelm a dog that might be timid or apprehensive. And it's easy for you to do without a lot of complicated bandage interpretations. Another one I've seen people do is to just take the wrap around the hind end. And this doesn't work as well, and people will discover this if they end up doing it. Just taking the wrap around the hind end and then tying it to each side so it just is like this. That can get you by, but it tends to, this part on the rump tends to fall down as they're walking. So having that extra bit of coming up through the harness, crossing on the top, and then going around the center of the dog, just actually ahead of where their business down there would be. You can get a cross on the top and then wrap it around the dog, and this helps hold the rump part of the harness on. Some dogs can be a little nervous about things on their rumps like that, so go very slowly and carefully when you're doing this. You might just put the wrap around the dog's rump and walk him a few steps while you're holding it, just to get him used to that feeling before you go ahead and wrap him, because it's kind of hard to take these off in a hurry. But it is really easy to use, and if your dog is really timid, this can really help him. And I don't know how many times you've seen timid dogs, but often they will walk backwards and sit down and squirt themselves into a corner when they're really frightened. And Tristan does that sometimes. At my old job, he used to do it a lot because it was a scary place in that building. And a wrap like this would have really helped him, because he's looking for that security of comfort around his hindquarters, of knowing where his hindquarters are. And to put a wrap on him in that situation would have been really helpful to him. Now, he was so frightened and timid that I'm sure he would have gone and squashed himself into a corner anyway. But, you know, if your dog is just a little bit nervous about something going on in the house, you know, a wrap can help them feel more secure. So, Tristan, any comments? How do you feel? Do you feel that you're connected to your hindquarters now? For a Corgi, a Basset Hound, a Dachshund, a Clumber Spaniel, some of these longer breeds, this wrap around the hindquarters can really help their backs. And even though it seems silly and unnecessary, it can, if you put this on your dog like once a week, like every Saturday morning, just put a wrap around the rump of a really long type dog, and it can really help. And can you sit down, please? It can really help their backs and help preserve the integrity of their joints and help preserve their gait symmetry for a really long time, just using the wrap even once a week on some of these longer breeds. So it is really helpful. And as your dog gets older, again, seniors can really benefit from wearing a wrap for a little while, a couple times a week. So as much as it doesn't seem necessary if your dog is okay, it can really help them just in their physical well-being. And when I show you some of the wraps we can do on people, I hope you try them on yourself and get a sense of how the effect of the wrap is on the dog, because it really, really can help them. Right, Tris? So we're not done yet. He has a busy day, so he's getting very excited. We will be off to our class in Maryland tomorrow, and we will be stopping in New Jersey. I may do a little Facebook Live with my favorite dog down there, Abby. I really like her. Well, I shouldn't say she's my absolute favorite, because I like all of them. I love Pookie, I love George, I love the Schnauzer, I like them all. So, and the Freckles, the old girl, she's so sweet. Anyway, so we might do a Facebook Live from New Jersey at some point in the afternoon, and you may have to just catch it as you can and look at it later in the day. But we will be off to our T-Touch class in Rockville, Maryland with the wonderful Linda Tellington. I'm really looking forward to it. And today Brian is coming to add some more things to my website and post these to YouTube. And I had this incredible, great experience yesterday. A woman who did an article about how to move with your cat had interviewed me for the article, and I had said, you absolutely must know how to do T-Touch work on your cat's ears. It's going to really help them settle into the new place, help them with a long car ride if they need to do that, and it's just so beneficial for so many things with your cat. And the person writing the article was convinced, and it's an online article. It will be on my website by tomorrow. And so the author of the article actually went and got a video somewhere on YouTube of Linda working on a cat's ears and put it as part of the article so that people reading the article can immediately click on a link and see Linda working with the cat's ears to show them what to do to help their cat, particularly for travel and the stress of a move. So that is so exciting, and I was really happy that she did that. Really so great. So I will be happy to see Linda and work with her for 6 days at this class in Maryland. And I may post a few Facebook Lives while we're there, if Linda doesn't mind me watching what she's doing and putting it on the internet. And I certainly will try to do like a daily update in the morning at some point on Facebook Live before we start our day. And I look forward to sharing this wonderful experience with everyone. So this is Sally Morgan and Tristan Corgi for another episode of Conversations with a Corgi. And today we looked at some things about how people treat dogs that may be unthoughtful and disrespectful. And then we also looked at the rump wrap, which is an easy way to put a wrap around your dog's hind end attached to the harness. So we will now get our outgoing music. And we will be doing some confidence course in the yard, come rain or cold. Oh, my dog's walking across the kitchen table. Have a great day, and we will see you coming from the T-Touch class in the coming days.